Eliza Foster stood frozen in the middle of a dusty pawn shop, staring at the gaming console she and her husband once argued over during late-night takeout runs. It was Bryan's favorite, customized, expensive, and something he swore he'd never sell. Yet there it was, tagged and shelved. Guy said he didn't need it anymore, he shrugged. Said he's moving in with his new girl. Said the old stuff was baggage. Eliza's heart thudded in her chest. That baggage was her. She wasn't just blindsided, she was discarded. Bryan hadn't mentioned separation. He'd been texting her like nothing was wrong. Jokes, memes, even a miss you 3 days ago. But now the truth stared her in the face, etched into a pawn slip with his signature. He cheated, ghosted, and moved on like she never existed. But Bryan forgot one thing. Eliza built his entire brand. And she still had access to everything. 2 hours later. Eliza Foster was 33, with a sharp eye for analytics and a quiet love for pixel art and strategy games. She worked as a freelance digital marketing strategist, mostly for small-time streamers trying to find their audience in the crowded world of gaming content. That's how she met Bryan 6 years ago at a gaming convention in Atlanta. He was funny, confident, and had a spark that drew people in. His streaming channel, Bryan Plays, had promise but no direction. Eliza saw the gaps, his inconsistent branding, sloppy thumbnails, terrible SEO, and offered to help. It started with a few edits. Then she was scripting intros, negotiating sponsorships, managing merch drops, and optimizing every piece of content. Bryan Plays grew steadily from a niche walkthrough channel into a mid-tier brand with solid income and loyal fans. They moved in together, then married after 2 years. While Bryan joked on camera about dragging his wife into the gamer cave, behind the scenes, Eliza was the engine. She handled every technical detail so he could just show up and play. She made him look professional. And for a while they were a team. He called her his player too, and she believed it. But as Bryan's numbers grew, so did his ego. He started staying up late, claiming it was for grind sessions and collabs. When Eliza peeked at the streams, she noticed a new face. Nina, a bubbly blonde with a fast laugh and a low-cut shirt. At first, she was just a guest, then a recurring presence, then a fixture. The chat exploded with fan theories, shipping Bryan and Nina like it was a reality show. Bryan didn't shut it down. He laughed, played along, and even leaned into the idea with cheeky titles and flirtatious banter. When Eliza brought it up, Bryan shrugged. "You're overthinking it," he said. "It's just content." But it didn't feel like content anymore. It felt personal. He'd stopped talking to Eliza after dinner. He locked his phone. He made excuses to avoid joint content. Still, Eliza told herself it was temporary. A phase. A rough patch in a high-pressure world. They didn't have children, by choice at first. But now Eliza wasn't sure he'd ever wanted the future they planned. What they did have were 2 cats, a mortgage, and a shared digital empire. The Patreon was in Eliza's name. So was the merch contract. She built the Discord server from scratch and still managed the face, but Eliza was the infrastructure. She had access to every password, every revenue stream, every legal document tied to his online presence. And yet, despite all that, Bryan didn't even have the decency to tell her he was leaving. No note, no conversation, just vanished. Until she walked into that pawn shop, looking for a $12.00 charger, and saw the console they'd bought together 2 birthdays ago, now up for sale, with a receipt signed in his handwriting. That was her wake-up call. The man she built a business with didn't just cheat. He tried to replace her like a broken controller. But Bryan underestimated one thing. Eliza wasn't just his wife. She was his brand's backbone. She knew every system he relied on, every deal he thought he secured. And now, he had no idea what was about to hit him. Because the architect still had the blueprints and the back doors. Eliza walked back into their apartment and immediately sensed the shift. The space was emptier, not just emotionally, physically. Bryan's gaming chair was gone. The ring light and mic were missing from the streaming setup. A few of the limited anime figures she had bought him on his birthday were gone too. She opened the closet and saw a gap where his favorite jackets had hung. Her heart raced. The betrayal wasn't just digital anymore. It was here, in their shared space, stolen one piece at a time. Her phone buzzed, a message from Bryan. "Hey, I think we should take a break. I'm staying with a friend for now. Don't worry, I'll swing by for the rest later." He didn't say her name, but Eliza knew who the friend was. Callie, a Twitch streamer with over 200,000 followers and a signature cosplay of a flirty anime witch. Callie had been just a guest on Bryan's streams, then she was in every thumbnail, then in Bryan's Twitter replies. She had once posted a selfie with the caption, "Eliza had convinced herself it was a joke." But now she saw the truth in slow motion. It had never been a joke. Eliza sat down at her desk. Bryan had forgotten something important, something he always forgot in the midst of chaos. She still had access to his accounts: YouTube, Patreon, Discord, even the sponsorship backend. She clicked through private messages. Between Bryan and Callie, dozens of them, screenshots of stream ideas, inside jokes, secret plans to move in together. Then sects, voice notes, even one labeled "Can't wait until she's gone." But it wasn't just the intimacy that broke Eliza. It was the way Bryan talked about her. "She's so boring. I just want someone who gets me. I always nags about the schedule. I can't keep pretending she matters." Each message was like acid. Eliza wasn't just dumped. She was mocked, discarded, while still funding his lifestyle. She saw Patreon payouts routing through her business PayPal, merch orders getting fulfilled using the auto-renewed credit card in her name, and there it was, Callie on her live stream, her background now unmistakable, Bryan's custom PC, Bryan's mic, even the little cat ear headset Eliza had gifted him as a joke. The same headset was now perched on Callie's head, while she giggled through donation alerts. "Thanks for the new setup, guys," Callie said, waving to the camera. "Bryan's been such a blessing." Eliza's stomach twisted. Her money, her labor, her branding, now supporting the woman who'd helped destroy her relationship. But she didn't cry. Not this time. She closed the tab, then opened a spreadsheet, then an asset log, then the contract templates she'd created for brand protection. Bryan thought he'd outgrown her, thought he could move on and take everything with him. But Eliza was still the architect, and every system he used still had her fingerprints on it. Eliza didn't call Bryan. She didn't throw anything or send a single furious text. Instead, she opened her laptop and got to work. Her hands shook, but her focus was razor sharp. She started compiling screenshots of his messages with Callie, financial transactions showing funds pulled from their joint PayPal account, ligand tamps from their shared Patreon that proved Bryan was actively posting from her verified business account. Even after he'd left, she opened the Patreon terms of service, then Twitch's community guidelines, then her own prenup, page 14, paragraph 3. Bryan had agreed to full financial transparency on any income earned through shared branding, intellectual property, or business channels. He'd signed it 2 years ago, without reading it, brushing it off like it was just legal fluff. It wasn't fluff now. Eliza documented everything. She screen-recorded live dashboards. She noted every item he sold that had been purchased under her personal credit cards, including the gaming chair, PC accessories, and even the LED panel she'd ordered from her business account during a Black Friday deal. Every asset was tied to her. Every platform bore her signature and metadata. She wasn't just his wife, she was his legal infrastructure. Then she made a call. Not to Bryan, but to Jordan Michaels, a tech attorney she'd helped promote during a Twitch sponsorship campaign last year. He owed her a favor, and remembered her instantly. She laid it all out in a shared drive. Jordan reviewed the evidence, line by line, over video chat. "This isn't just petty," he said. "It's fraud. You've got unauthorized income routing, misrepresentation of ownership, and IP theft. You want to go after him?" Eliza nodded. "I wanted to do it right, and I want it to stick." Jordan drafted the first letter that same evening, a cease and desist outlining the business violations, a demand to return all equipment bought under her name, and a warning that further unauthorized monetization would be pursued in civil court. Eliza also initiated steps to freeze payouts from their joint Patreon until ownership could be clarified. She changed her business passwords, removed his access to their Discord community, and sent formal notices to sponsors who were still promoting Bryan using assets she'd designed. But that wasn't all. Eliza scheduled a live stream. Not a rant, not a call-out, a presentation. She titled it, "The Truth About Player 2, A Creator's Real Story." She planned to walk through the brand they built, the legal structure behind it, her contributions, what went wrong, and how women in creator partnerships can protect themselves. She would use no insults, no name-calling, just facts, receipts, and a few legal disclaimers. Bryan thought he left her in silence. But Eliza wasn't silent. She was strategic. Every message he sent, every dollar he moved, every lie he told. She had it all backed up. He built an audience on personality. She built it on process. And now, the process was about to turn everything around. Eliza sat cross-legged on the living room floor, surrounded by receipts, invoices, and hard drives. Her cats patted softly around her, occasionally curling against her leg like they knew she needed grounding. It had been a week since she started compiling evidence, and she hadn't slowed down. She checked every payment alert and bank transaction tied to her accounts. And then she found it. A nearly $3,000 0-cents charge on her credit card. Bryan had pre-ordered a top-of-the-line gaming PC. The delivery address wasn't their house. It was an apartment across town, under Callie's name. Eliza's breath caught. Her stomach clenched, but she didn't scream. She called her credit card company, filed a fraud report, and alerted the vendor. The PC hadn't shipped yet. The charge was reversed. It was a small victory in a battlefield still littered with emotional landmines. Then she stumbled on the worst of it. Buried under an old business email folder was a series of password reset requests. Curious, she followed the trail and found a hidden OnlyFans account. The username was unfamiliar, but the content was unmistakable. It was Bryan and Callie, together, streaming intimate content behind a paywall. The videos were edited with overlays overlying Eliza Pack's created. The background music? Tracks she had personally licensed under her business. Her hand flew to her mouth. It wasn't just infidelity. It was exploitation. He had used her tools, her assets, her work, to profit from a life he excluded her from. The betrayal cut deeper than anything she'd imagined. Every sarcastic joke he'd made about her being behind the camera. Every time he said she wouldn't get it. He hadn't just left her. He'd replaced her, using her own efforts to build something he didn't deserve. She felt humiliated, used, discarded like nothing more than a stepping stone. But the emotion didn't cripple her. It crystallized into resolve. She documented everything, saved screen recordings of the videos, especially those using her overlays. She downloaded the music files and matched the license numbers to her name. Every single asset he used was traceable, back to her business. Legally, she had standing to issue takedowns, possibly more. She loaded it all onto a secure external drive and encrypted it. Then she poured a cup of tea, sat at the desk in their now half-empty studio, and opened a blank document. Her hands were steady. No more crying. No more asking why. She started drafting her live stream script. It wasn't just a story of heartbreak anymore. It was about creator rights, online exploitation, and the ways women behind the scenes are erased, until they refuse to be. She queued up old footage Bryan had never aired. Clips where he mocked fans for tipping too little. Footage of him bragging about sponsorships he faked. Even one where he sneered at her off-camera, saying she was just the editor and didn't matter to the brand. It was never about revenge for Eliza. Not really. It was about truth. And now that she had it raw, ugly, and unfiltered, she knew exactly what to do with it. The emotional fallout wasn't her ending. It was her transformation. Eliza hit go live on a quiet Thursday night, naming her stream Behind the Console. Her camera was angled slightly off-center, with soft lighting and a minimalist background, just a bookshelf, a mug, and the cats curled in the distance. She wasn't there to scream. She was there to speak. She introduced herself, not as Bryan's wife, but as Eliza Foster, co-founder of the Bryan Plays brand, digital strategist, editor, and the person who had built every pixel of his empire. She told her story calmly, how she discovered the betrayal, the pawn shop, the OnlyFans account, and the stolen assets. And then she pressed play on the first clip. It was Bryan laughing about fans who think a $5 donation means I owe them something. Another clip showed him rolling his eyes and saying, "Eliza, just the editor. She doesn't understand the hustle." Then came the nail in the coffin Kali mid-life stream, giggling, "So thinks he's working late. So sad." Eliza didn't add commentary. She let the clip speak. Within minutes, viewers started pouring in. Her follower count jumped from 2,000 to 20,000, then 40,000. By the end of the stream, she'd crossed 80,000 subscribers. Comments flooded the chat. "This is wild. I used to follow Bryan Plays. Never again. Thank you for telling the truth." Gaming Reddit exploded. Threads about Eliza's stream dominated the front page. Clips went viral on TikTok. Twitter users posted side-by-side of Bryan's old brand slogans next to his shady messages. Eliza's receipts were airtight. She released timestamps, payment logs, and legal filings without breaking any privacy guidelines. Every step was deliberate, lawful, and devastating. Sponsors began pulling out. The energy drink company he'd promoted dropped him within 12 hours. 2 merch partners canceled contracts citing brand representation. Twitch launched an investigation into his monetization activity after viewers began flagging content that used Eliza's licensed assets. Patreon suspended the shared account pending fraud review, freezing thousands in monthly income. Eliza's stream didn't stop there. Over the next few weeks, Behind the Console evolved into a mini-documentary series. She broke down the dynamics of content creation behind couples, explained how digital labor often goes uncredited, and offered legal tips for freelancers and women working in media partnerships. She wasn't just exposing Bryan, she was empowering others. Her inbox overflowed. Women thanked her for giving them language for what they'd experienced. "I thought I was crazy. I helped him grow, and he erased me too. You made me feel seen." Callie responded the way most influencers do, by crying on camera. Her apology video featured tearful gaslighting and vague references to miscommunication. Eliza didn't respond directly. She posted a short clip instead, a screenshot of her copyright filings and a quote from Callie's stream, followed by the words, "Actions have consequences." Bryan tried to retaliate. He posted an angry statement on his Instagram stories accusing Eliza of sabotage and claiming he'd sue for defamation. Within hours, Eliza's attorney emailed his legal team a stack of documents, contracts, receipts, tax records, and a formal breach of intellectual property. No threats, just facts. His team went quiet. His follower count plummeted. His subscriber base shrank by 70% in a week. Brand deals vanished. Discord moderators quit. The Bryan Plays empire, once smug and glossy, disintegrated before the internet's eyes. Eliza didn't celebrate with champagne or memes. She bought a new microphone, replaced the camera setup he took, and quietly changed all remaining passwords on her accounts. She filed to dissolve the shared business license and launched her own brand under a new name, Foster Digital Media. Her first solo stream as a creator, not just a strategist, featured her walking viewers through the steps of protecting creative work, signing prenups with digital clauses, and building independent platforms. She didn't scream, she didn't rant, she simply reclaimed her voice. The revenge wasn't cruel. It was professional. It was precise. And it was permanent. Eliza filed the final paperwork to dissolve the Bryan Plays business license and launched her own company, Foster Digital Media. No gimmicks, no avatars, just her name, her voice, and her work. She turned Behind the Console into a weekly series focused on creator protection, digital contracts, and the often unseen labor behind streaming success. What began as a live stream of survival evolved into an educational hub that pulled thousands into her orbit, not because she was loud, but because she was honest. Within a month, she was invited to speak on multiple panels about digital safety, including a National Women in Tech Summit. Podcasts reached out for interviews. Sponsorships trickled in, this time on her terms, with clear contracts and creator-worth values. She launched a mini-course on freelancer protections that sold out in days. For the first time in years, Eliza wasn't supporting someone else's career. She was building her own. She left the apartment she once shared with Bryan and moved into a loft bathed in natural light, with enough room for a dedicated studio and editing bay. She hung soft art prints on the wall, added soundproofing, and built a custom desk with her own hands. She adopted a third cat, a scrappy gray tabby, named Pixel, and the trio settled into the kind of quiet that felt earned. Eliza's income doubled in 3 months. She didn't chase viral trends. She didn't mimic influencers. She offered clarity, protection, and proof that creators could reclaim their power. Young streamers began reaching out for advice, women who saw themselves in Eliza's past. She responded to every email, every message, not as a guru, but as someone who'd been burned and learned to rebuild. She rewrote all her contract templates with new legal clauses, clear copyright ownership, revenue-sharing breakdowns, and terms for emotional labor. She offered these templates for free on her site. She mentored women one-on-one through private Discord sessions, helping them navigate red flags in partnerships, manage brand negotiations, and build independence without apology. Dating was the last thing on her mind, not because she was bitter, but because she was whole. Her days were filled with teaching, designing, filming, and cuddling with cats. Her evenings were quiet, filled with books and takeout and soft music. For the first time since college, she slept without checking her phone first. When she saw Bryan's name trend again, this time linked to a failed brand relaunch, she didn't flinch. She didn't care. She had stopped needing validation from likes, comments, or comparison long ago. What she had now was deeper. She had ownership. Not of a channel. Not of a brand. Of her voice. And of her value. Of her truth. And with every woman she helped, every story she heard, and every creator she lifted up, that truth only grew stronger. One quiet Sunday afternoon, Eliza sat at her desk editing an episode of her series on digital consent when her inbox pinged. The sender's name made her stomach tighten for a second. Bryan. The subject line simply read, "Hope you're doing well." She clicked it open. No idealiva explanation. Just a single sentence. "Hope life's treating you good." Eliza stared at it for a moment, then hit delete. She didn't need closure from someone who never offered honesty in the first place. A few weeks later, someone forwarded her a link. Callie had resurfaced on a new streaming platform under a slightly altered username. Eliza didn't click it. She had nothing to gain from reopening a chapter she had already closed. Her time wasn't for old mistakes. It was for new growth. Her DMs, on the other hand, stayed full. Women, teens, even men wrote to her, not just with thanks, but with stories. Stories of leaving toxic partnerships, of reclaiming content, of choosing boundaries. One message came from a teenager in Ohio. "I used to feel so small in my friend group. Watching your videos helped me speak up. Thank you for showing that quiet doesn't mean weak." Eliza sat with that one. She printed it and pinned it above her monitor. Her loft echoed with a different kind of noise now. Laughter, late-night brainstorming, casual game nights with local creators, all recorded for her content series. The cats roamed freely, curling into corners of sun. Her life was not built on drama. It was built on intention. She recorded an episode titled, "Resilience Isn't Loud." It featured no music, just her voice, steady and warm, reading messages from fans and offering advice on how to rebuild after betrayal. She didn't name Bryan. She didn't have to. The lesson wasn't about him. It was about her. There were still moments when the past flickered, when a photo popped up in her cloud storage, when a song they once played during editing looped on a playlist. But the sting was gone. It had been replaced with perspective. That pain wasn't a failure. It was a marker of transformation. Eliza no longer needed revenge. She had results. She didn't wake up wondering who might hurt her. She woke up wondering what kind of legacy she was creating. She no longer saw herself as the woman who chose to stay with herself. The scars Bryan left didn't disappear, but they faded, and in their place bloomed something stronger: purpose, confidence, ownership. Eliza didn't live for the applause. She lived for the impact. She lived for the messages, for the quiet teens, the overworked freelancers, the silenced creators who watched her carve a path through betrayal without screaming. And every time she pressed record, she knew exactly who she was doing it for: herself. And the thousands learning how to begin again. He called me a background character in his success story. I published the receipts. I showed the emails, the sponsorship decks, the overlays, the edits. I didn't just prove my worth, I documented it. Every late night, every detail he brushed off as not real work, I brought into the light. My name is Eliza Foster. My husband left me for a gamer girl. But I own the console. I built the overlays. I negotiated the contracts. I made the stream run, even when I was invisible to the viewers. I gave him everything. And when he tried to ghost me and take it all, I documented. I delivered. He streamed lies. I streamed the truth. If someone ever tells you you're just the helper, remember, the person holding the camera is the one who decides what gets seen. And when they forget that, you remind them. With evidence, with your voice, with power that doesn't need permission. Subscribe to Veiled Fury for more stories of women who took back the spotlight and never looked back. Because silence isn't strength, truth is, and we're just getting started.